Where are you from? Dear people, where are you from? Where are you from? Estonia?
Italy, but living in Estonia.
Italy?
Estonia.
Estonia? Estonia?
Finland.
Finland.
Estonia.
Estonia?
Finland as well.
And you do? Estonia? Where? Lithuania. Cool. Okay. Okay. How many asylum centers do you know about here in Estonia? How many have you got? Have you got any asylum centers?
Two asylum centers.
Two. In Denmark we have. So if the people living there were to meet the local people, it would be a bit hard because it's isolated. I know that from Denmark.
Well, Väike-Maarja, yeah, but Vageva is quite.
But I mean, the places are very small.
Yeah, they're very small. Yeah.
They're villages, but I mean, people live there.
Yeah. There are
very
people.
small, yeah.
There are people actually, even in
We can talk where they were before.
Yeah.
It was in a forest where there was really nobody. The bus was going there twice a week.
Right. That was when? A year ago? 2 years ago?
A couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years.
Well, that took place in Denmark too. They had 8 miles to the nearest shopping place. No neighbors at all. Then it's pretty hard to communicate with the locals. So that's what we'll be talking about, how to build a bridge to the local community. What are we beginning now? Who has the time? Don't expect too much. Don't expect too much.
objective reality.
And we should start 3:30?
20.
So we have already begun. But are you recording, my dear colleague? Are you recording? Okay. Right. Yes. Feel free. I don't think you're going to be using it. Okay. Let's get to it. I come from the very north of Denmark. Hello, Anna. How are you doing? Good. She is helping us with whatever we might need. Hello, Agnes.
Yes, hello Mats.
What time should we begin, Agnes? You know everything. Are we too?
At this moment.
This very moment. You're right on time. That's good.
Yeah.
So I was just describing my hometown, which is where everything began for our movement in Denmark. Our movement is called Venlige Boerne, meaning the friendly locals. My hometown is a place where, when you grow up, you typically aspire to become a fisherman or a farmer. Those are the two main occupations that our area provides. We have no history of receiving guests, newcomers. Many would describe us as reluctant people. Stay away, and if you intend to come, make an appointment in advance. So when the local media told our area, you will now be hosting 485 refugees, many people were scared, to be honest. Many people thought, oh my goodness, 485 people, and where are they from? So many stories started evolving. So my own situation, I'm a writer, but thankfully I cannot sell enough books to make a living out of it. It's so fortunate because it means that sometimes I have to take a job that normally I would never take. And this time, they were seeking staff at this newly opened asylum center. So I went there, and after 5 minutes of being interviewed, I was given a job. So I was there the moment all these people came, 485, and they turned out to come from 25 different nations. To me, I had no experience with this field whatsoever. Feel free to join us. Welcome. Hello.
It's Kathleen.
Hello,
Thank
Kathleen.
you. My name is Kathleen.
Cool. Where are you from?
I'm working in an integration foundation as a senior consultant.
Okay. Good to meet you. So I had zero experience. My colleagues, 3 men, had zero experience. So everything was pretty new to us. Not as new to us as it turned out to be for all the wonderful people who came. Now, what I instantly felt was a sincere problem at the asylum center when people started moving into very small wooden huts that had been built back in the early 90s and hadn't been used really since. So they were in a poor state. 4 people in each hut, and they had no shared meeting place. There was no common ground in which they could get to know each other. So at the very beginning of this asylum center, I would get up there in the morning at 9 o'clock. I would walk into a very tiny office, pretty much the size of this table. Everything was cramped, even for the staff. And people would line up, and they would be unhappy. They would be maybe criticizing the people that they were sharing huts with. There were all sorts of negativity. And also, so many questions along the line, is there any news about my case? Will I be given a yes or a no to stay in Denmark? When it comes to the latter, my reply would always be no, 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 no. So my job in a way was to disappoint people. It was very frustrating to the people who came and waited in line, and it was frustrating to me too. So I started thinking, isn't it possible for us to do better? Why should my job be letting people down, disappoint people all day long? I mean, shitty. My boss, she wouldn't let us have a shared room, at least not at the beginning. So I was looking for a golden opportunity to make something that would unite us all, meaning the 485 asylum seekers, first and foremost. And January 5th, 2015, the golden opportunity came. I was told by a young woman from Eritrea, Samrawit was her name, that in Eritrea and Ethiopia, they celebrate Christmas Eve on January 7th. They use another time calendar than we do. So, wow, Christmas Eve in 2 days. We just had Christmas Eve in Denmark. That sounds cool. So what do you do? And she said, well, it's pretty simple. We dance. We dance all evening. Wow, that is what we need. That is what we need to bring all the people together. And happily, I went to my boss and I said, do you know what? In 2 days' time, we have a lot of people here who actually celebrate Christmas. Why not make a huge party at the entire asylum center? And I told her the details, and then she looked at me and said, no, whoa, no. Why? No, we cannot favor particular nations. This would be beneficial to all of us, no? No, it would, no. No go. So disappointed, I left, and I started thinking, I have a job where I say no all the time. And now when people then want to celebrate Christmas, I have to say no again? Whoa, And for this to be a workshop, I have to bring you into the story right now, because I would like you to put yourself in my shoes at this particular moment in time and have a discussion. Let's say you 5, 6, and you back. Have a discussion and make a game plan. Now imagine you were in my shoes. There's a no, we have an asylum center, everybody is not happy at all. What would you do? I will give you 10 minutes to discuss, 10 minutes to make a game plan. You get it? Questions? No? Go ahead.
Some coffee or tea?
No, I'm not.
That's okay.
What is
I'm put here water for you to.
Oh, thank you. Will you take the time, 10 minutes? Because I don't have a clock. In 10 minutes?
Yes, 10 minutes. Ahead.
Cool.
From Russia. Do you know about this World Festival of Young and Students? You don't know? World Festival.
No.
In all world we had a festival maybe one time of 3 years in another countries, and all young and students come in this festival, and they're another team for politics or natural or some volunteers or OON is another very interesting, and I'm working there.
Ah, now I get it. I get it. I think actually there was a representative last year who talked about this festival.
In this year in Russia, in Sochi, are this festival. Maybe 3 years ago, there would be, I don't remember where it's been, maybe some in Turkey or something there. And first are in Belgium, the first festival, in 1947. And that's amazing. 30,000 people in one festival, in other natures, in other cultures. Amazing.
Sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Sounds
And
so cool.
Putin. There are Putin too.
Oh, oh.
Yeah. And other politics are there in other countries too.
Yeah,
It's very beautiful.
yeah. Bringing people together.
Yes. We have now a future team in Facebook. We're speaking there with people in other countries, young people who want to make something, it's like, I don't know, young people organization for the world. We want to, it's like we don't want a war, we want to make some shiny, some interesting things for all young people, and not only for young people, for all people. Now we're thinking about some big project. What we can do. We have big motivation, but we don't know what we can do. We know we can do all, but we don't know what we want now. It's like so much people. What we can. Just like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't have project now. We only sitting and speaking. Maybe with someone to do something. But what we can. Like, I don't know, maybe you have some things about that. Then you have maybe 10,000 another young people in another country. What do you want to do with it?
I'll think about it.
Let's think about it.
Yeah.
I can give you my Facebook, and after when you have some things, you can text for me.
I would love that. I would love that. Of course.
Because it's very hard when you have so much people. You're sitting like a queen, but that's all. I'm only queen, but I don't know what I can do. It's very, very interesting. 4 minutes. Facebook. Can you put here on Facebook? You came here from Denmark, or you live in another country?
That's not me. This is my name, and that's it. Ah, here we are.
Oh, okay.
I've reached the limit, so but now we are in connection. If you send me a message now,
Oh, you have limit of friends.
I know.
Okay, maybe you can after. I can text you.
Exactly. If you write me a message now, I will see
And
it.
do this. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
We can find each other now.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I like this water.
It's water.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's tasty.
it is.
And you can drink and do you have some lecture tomorrow?
No, I'm flying home tomorrow very early.
home?
Yeah,
Oh,
but I'm here all evening. The award show. Are you going to the award show?
which show?
There's an award show at 5 o'clock.
Today.
Yeah, integration award show.
Ah, yes, I'm going there. I'm working at 9 o'clock today.
All right.
It's at 5. This one. Estonian Baltic Integration Awards today, 5 o'clock. After coffee break. Here's some concert and maybe some eating too.
Cool.
Cool.
Is it time? 10 minutes?
New emotions in the face, and other emotions. You understand these people say, okay, yes, these people know, I think another. That's very interesting, like psychology. Yes? Four, 3, 5,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm eager to hear your response. And if you differ in opinion, that's fine. Then we will just have all your opinions. Let's start out with you, lot. Did you reach a unanimous decision?
Well, we had several ideas, so we can help you to feel. We tried to put ourselves in your boots. That, in a sense, we thought it had to be really difficult for you to do the job, but also difficult for the people to live in those circumstances. So we had an idea of not naming doing the party, but not naming it a Christian or whatever, Ethiopian, whatever, but making it a kind of either a get-together party or a welcome party, and then we could also invite the community actually to welcome people. Or there was another idea, actually even on a more magnitude scale. Sorry to be back with you. You want to say a few words, like several layers, actually.
Yeah, because I was hearing that you were really frustrated because of your boss saying always no. So I figured.
And myself having to say no all the time.
Absolutely. So I figured, why not sort of use the civic initiative approach that I don't know. Either you start your own NGO, which is where I'm getting at. Or you kickstart a campaign in order to finance sort of the first event, so to speak, where you bring together the asylum seekers, the center, the people themselves, and then the local community. It's either two ways. Either you organize the first event, just an event, and see where it goes, or you directly start your own NGO who would deal with these events. So this was kind of the brainstorming.
The idea you had also, I think, was that to do a kind of marketplace, to actually ask people what they would like to do, and do some kind of self-organizing event, like cooking. Somebody will cook a meal, and then other people can come. So this kind of approach that people themselves propose some ideas for activities, and then others inspire.
Right. Very good. Very good. I will not reveal if it's close to the truth of what actually happened, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful you should have been in my town back then. What say you?
Well, we thought first of all that if you throw a party at your house and invite everybody.
My house.
Generally thinking, if anyone throws a party at your apartment or your house and invite all neighbors, probably people come there. So, but of course in this case it has to be a huge house.
485.
Yeah, we should find some kind of facility like a school or a sport hall. But and then you have to negotiate with the school, of course. And then what came into my mind, of course I know too little details, or we know too little details. You didn't tell us everything, but I suppose that the organization that has a headache of dealing with this problem, people being afraid on one side and then new people being lost on another side, and bringing them together is the local municipal head.
Yeah.
And what I would do personally, I would go there and say that if you want to get rid of your headache, if you want to deal with this situation, you have to mobilize people or to organize the party at the best place in town.
Where would you go and address this?
Well, it depends, because in Finland, as I told the party, in this kind of situation, they would first make a big seminar and with panels. And then maybe in 1 year, there will be a Christmas party.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It depends. I don't know the structure of Danish municipal.
But we only had 48 hours. Yeah. It wouldn't happen in Finland. That's what you're saying.
No.
Okay. And what about the bus? Would you steer entirely away from the asylum center bus? You wouldn't use her in any way?
Yeah. Well, it seemed like she is quite convinced of saying no. So I mean, you have 2 days.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend time in trying to make her
Convinced.
But of course, you can lose your job. In the end.
Right. Okay, let's switch. You go. Your group.
Okay, we didn't have very intense discussions. We had a party.
You had the party. That's cool.
We decided to go to the locals as well. Maybe have this kind of speak directly to some farmer or whoever has the biggest building, some barn perhaps or something like this, and would agree to have this huge number of people there. Would invite just everybody to bring something with them, having this kind of display of various kinds of food. Find some speakers, have this music, and have this dancing party.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's 48 hours, so it's lot to do in 48 hours.
To include also locals.
But to have a party, if it's not possible to have a party in the Asylum, to have it outside then with locals at whoever is the most willing partner there.
Yeah.
To invite also locals and have this kind of, maybe we are overreaching or simplifying, but that was the basic idea.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. You at the back, what do you say?
Maybe should organize spontaneous dancing party at the street or something.
In the street, like you were talking about, out in the big open.
You have a warmer country.
Warmer than
Warmer? Are you kidding me? Denmark in January, it's like Siberia.
really.
Yes.
We have winter dance parties in
Dancing is you get hot with dancing.
So that's what you would do.
And then there was one option: just leave the job.
Right, interesting.
And the 48 hours, maybe it was Saturday and Sunday, so your boss was away celebrating or something. And the party would remain a secret.
Right.
Sometimes if you don't.
A secret. If 500 people celebrated Christmas Eve, January 7th in Denmark, I tell you, it would be hard to keep it a secret, because that would never have happened in Denmark before.
That was the underground.
It would, absolutely.
So you would, at the same time, have some good publicity too.
That's true. Yeah, and you are a publicity officer here at this place. The last group?
Well, we had the same idea with just calling the festival with a different name, non-Christmas, or finding a good room outside the center, or was it, calling our boss's boss and convincing him to help. And anything else?
I think the school was also already
Yeah,
mentioned that if you really would like to organize something with such a short notice, that then one possibility would be to try to find a kind of a cooperation with the school, which probably has, even in that place in Denmark, some kind of a venue for that kind of annual festivities or something like that. The other thing that was also there, kind of that if it's already then beginning of January, then it wouldn't be that long time to, let's say, beginning of March, and then it would be already the spring coming, and spring is a universal phenomenon. It's not contextual to any nations or religions, and so why not starting preparing something that could then take place outside and be let's say common for all.
And I think it depends also what kind of group of asylum seekers you had, because I don't know, but if there would be a lot of children, you could still do something just for children, and then of course the parents are as well invited, and there, you can always find some like kind of workshop or whatever for children, so there could be a kind of sub option which doesn't probably need even an allowance from the boss, because this is just children playing.
That's a very good point, and I didn't mention that, but the housing were considered in such a poor state that kids were not allowed. So it tells you a lot. So we had no kids in the camp at all grown-ups. Okay, interesting, all of you. Now, before I reveal what really happened, I want to give you another assignment, because I can tell you this, and this goes along with nothing but my personality. If I'm excited, I cannot help show it. If I'm, on the other side, appalled, what? No Christmas Eve? What's going on? Then I cannot help address it somehow. That's what I did. But I want you to pick out, not what you think I did, but what in your opinion would be able to cause the biggest attention in a local community. What would be the easiest way, the most powerful way to address it, so that the whole community became aware of the no that was given by my boss. And again, I will give your groups shorter time this time. Let's say 5 minutes. Pick out the perfect communication tool. Where did my press officer go? Agnes, are you with us still? Because you have you have professional knowledge about this area, I believe. But give it a go, all of you groups. 5 minutes, the best possible communication way to go.
One question.
Yes.
Is the center inside city or outside?
What the people I wanted to address were the local community. My town was 20,000 people.
20,000?
Yeah.
It's not a village.
We tend to call it a city. 5 minutes from now, ladies and gents.
It's 4.
Cool.
Workshop, I think the best. Yesterday, we had to choose which workshops we want to work. It's a favorite for me because it's very interesting how I can take some people in some of my projects or something in organizer. Because in Estonia we have a big problem. Estonia is very close people. I'm Russian and I'm like friendly, but Estonia is all like, oh, I'm scared where you want to go with me, what you want from me, like this. It's very interesting what you say.
That's good.
You give some like I don't know how in English like something. You give me think, and I'm thinking after how I make that.
That's cool. That's cool. That's what I was. I've never done this before. I've never had a workshop before in my life. This is my first ever.
That's very cool. This name like coaching.
Yeah.
When you give only questions, you don't give answers. Only questions.
Yeah.
People can think in and give an answer for these questions for all. That's very interesting. Cool. And very interesting get ideas from all groups. After you can take these ideas and make your own project.
Exactly. That's the ambition, because what we did in Denmark can be duplicated everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. All it takes is that you engage your local community, and no matter where you go on the globe, you have local communities. And the internet.
Yes, internet.
I'm curious as to what they're going to answer this time.
Oh, we're all speaking in internet more than in life. That's a big problem, I think. Because, no, I understand when some people living in another countries, that's okay. When I'm sitting in one room, in another room sitting my brother, and he can say, hey, Anna, come here. He texts me in some Facebook, oh, can you come here? But you don't have a voice or what? Or call me, can you bring me something? Why?
Yeah.
You can't speaking with me like this. I think that's a big problem for all.
Yeah.
I like this forum and sessions where all people can speak in one ideas, one thing. That's very, very good for all. And other people like professors or some teachers.
Exactly.
Young people, so not young.
I'm surprised so many people are from Estonia. I thought it would be a European crowd.
No, so much more people from Estonia because 2 days for this forum, and who want to come in another country here in Estonia where it's cold and weather for 2 days.
Yeah.
But we had only 200 people, maybe more we can't. And after when the registration are closed, more people call and maybe I can go here without registration, please. We had some in other countries too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yes, but no, we had some page without name. When some people want to go here, we put in here name. It's okay, you can go.
It does sound, but maybe it is. There's a possibility.
Okay. Let's hear you all. This time, you go first.
Yes, we have one idea. Firstly, some persons could be in shopping center with placards. And
Sorry?
Poster.
Okay, go to the big mall.
Yes. Small.
We have one. It could be done.
Yes, and then we could invite people to try food, national food and dances.
We enjoy the diversity via culture and
So you would use the big mall to express that this is going on?
Yes.
In 48 hours?
And something small too could be. If you have only one big, you could have something smaller.
Right.
Because it's important that there would be more people. Not one person will invite, but 10 people would invite.
Yeah.
To come to party.
I get it. Thank you. What about you?
Well, we had many ideas, but yes, many. And maybe the first one, since there's so little time frame, is to use the social media. For example, Facebook. You have to reach you have to have lots of followers first, or to reach someone who has followers, or maybe there's a community on Facebook.
To people who may not know Facebook, what do you mean you have to reach out to someone who has followers?
So if you, let's say I have 100 friends, I have 100 followers, it means if I post something on the wall, let's say there will be passing maybe maximum 100 people, or maybe 30 people will pass in short time. But if you, let's say, post somewhere in 5 minutes before national news, then you have thousands or millions of viewers who reach the same information.
Right,
so,
right.
So, and we had a slogan.
You have a slogan?
My boss said no to Christmas.
I like that.
And from then on, comments, and then next post, come this date to this place and bring food, and we'll dance all night.
Okay.
And of course, we have posters printed also out, and what else?
And will you put them on display in the local mall, or will you put it on every post, every lamp post, every wall in town? Okay, big scale. Okay. What about your group?
There were several ideas as well. No, one of the ideas was that somebody take, you probably, go to the square and take the mic or the loudspeaker and start to call people like, this is incredible, there's no Christmas, let's do the party.
This is too bad! Come on, everybody! I like that idea.
Direct communication, but there are also others with a new local newspaper or just passing a message in the local news just before the social media we also mentioned. Posters as well. So several, like direct communication.
Do you have local TV news?
Not exactly.
It's
no.
on the
No, it's about 40 miles further south. That's where we have the closest TV station.
But a local newspaper.
We have a radio,
Radio?
a local radio.
We thought about radio too. We also thought about a kind of more prehistoric form of communication, like SMS and stuff like that. But you can still like write to your friends and then ask each friend to go basically to their neighbors and tell about it, so that you've got like a waves of like a pyramid model of communication.
Right. Cool. Thank you. What about you?
We didn't know if you had a local TV. Apparently you haven't.
Nope.
Personally,
Oh, that was your idea, to go to the local.
One of, and then of course social media. But the strategy would be that you and an organizing committee made of refugees would invite the local community to a party. So you would have to take responsibility, but also not be patronizing the refugees.
Exactly. Whoa, that's a good point. Patronizing, because I'm so glad you say that.
And so they take
Because that is often what happens. Good point.
But I mean, independently from which way you use to inform local people, I think the best solution in your case would be to get a national hero to say it loud. My boss said no to Christmas and I had to resign my job and now I don't have anything and let's make a startup with a party. And then you found an organization.
Okay.
But so, yeah.
Right.
People like national heroes.
Well,
Themselves, you know.
if you were to pick one social media to as a platform, which one would that be?
Well, we would discuss. We thought about that because Facebook, of course, came as the first one. But for example, I don't use Facebook, so I couldn't start, and I would not use Facebook.
We don't know the context very well, so yeah.
I understand.
If it was in Brussels, I would use Facebook.
Yeah. And Brussels is your turf. That's where you work. Yeah. Okay. What about you?
Well, also the journalists and social media and hunger strike.
Hunger strike.
Not for a Christmas party.
No, because
Explain that. Who came up with hunger strike? Because we actually, I mean, it's not that far-fetched. We just had one in Denmark that received quite a lot of media
well,
attention.
it always works. So if you want to have attention, then go on a hike.
Is that really your experience, that it always works?
I haven't tried it. I have this impression.
But if you want to get media
Basically,
attention,
yeah, it works, and well, we would not go because of not having Christmas party, but just not being allowed to have fun. That's why we go on a strike.
right. Okay. Have you met any people from Eritrea ever?
No, not exactly from Eritrea.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also discussed about talking to church, and it's Christmas after.
Oh, interesting.
We don't know whether that would have any influence.
Do you know people from Eritrea? Are they typically Muslim, or are they typically Christian, or you have any idea? Who?
It's both. Maybe I would like to make one short comment. I am ethnical Jews, and at the same time, our local inhabitants celebrated Christmas. We celebrated Hanukkah. It means that we want to explain our neighbors what it means, what difference, and why we are celebrating Hanukkah. Big difference, but our maybe responsibility to explain our local people why and what it means.
Yeah, I understand. To use the occasion to provide your community with knowledge. Yeah. To answer my own question, they are primarily Christian. Maybe 80-90% of all people from Eritrea are Christians. Comes as a surprise to most people. Also, our local community in my hometown. Did we? That was all groups. Yeah. Okay.
So tell us.
Now I will tell you. I will tell you. As I said, I'm almost always driven by excitement or the opposite. And this time I was really amazed, because by this time I had been working at the Asylum Center for 4 months, and I had seen so many absurd no's being given. And I'll give you one example, speaking about the mall, actually, because before we even got to this point, a group of young Syrian men, they came to me and they said, Mads, we are very thankful for the way the local people have accepted us in their city. We would like to go down in front of the big mall because we have noticed that there's always a lot of rubbish lying on the ground. We will pick it up, we will clean the street, and if people were to ask us, why are you doing this? We would simply state, because you have greeted us, you have received us in a very fine manner, we are grateful, that's why we do this. So, again, they went to the bus just to inform her, this is what we intend to be doing. Can you imagine that there's a no coming now? There is. She said no again. And does any of you have a possible reason for her to say no? How could she explain that this could not happen? What could possibly be her reason?
Well, she might think that they are taking away job from a cleaning company, and then they will feel kind of,
You're close, but not exactly.
It's not in the regulation.
They have no permission to work.
No, it's not that.
Stereotype thing. You cannot put the refugees in a position that reinforces the stereotypes. Them doing.
Oh, like slavery job. That's that. No.
Insurance issues, like if somebody hurts himself while picking something, then she would have to pay for that.
I like that answer, because that was a no she gave a few weeks later. She used that one a few weeks later. No, but I'll give it to you. She said, and this is literally what she said, because I stood right next to her and I saw the faces of all the young men when she said this. I cannot allow you to do this because the professional cleaners in the city, they might be mad if you do their job in front of them all. So in a way you were close, and then there was this tiny little difference, that she was somehow afraid that they would be mad at someone trying to say thank you. So, back to Christmas Eve, January 5th, 2015. Now, I had no experience with social media as such. I was pretty new to Facebook. I remember I had 700 friends. And most of them, they came from the local community. Many of them, they were young students that had actually put me on Facebook because I was very reluctant. I used to be a teacher, and I had a group of students who came to me and said, Mads, we would like to take your class, but we know that you're not on Facebook. If we are to take your class, you must be on Facebook. Otherwise, we won't have you as our teacher. You are too old-fashioned. They were very outspoken. So I said, okay, so bring me on. And then I became a member of the big Facebook community. But I had no idea that you could actually use it if you wanted to build a Christmas Eve in 48 hours. Here's what happened. As I told you, I'm a very emotional guy, so when I got back home from work, I simply just put this post on Facebook saying, I had the strangest experience today. We have a lot of people who are about to celebrate their Christmas Eve in 48 hours. And my boss, she said no. And that was basically it. I was just, wow, is this for real? And I tell you, the amount of comments, it was just, and why is this? I believe for a lot of reasons, but the main one being, we are sentimental when it comes to Christmas. Someone down the back said, use that No, it was you actually. What can you remember what you said? There was a slogan.
My boss said no to Christmas.
My boss said no to Christmas. I didn't write. I should have written that. Nowadays, I would have known that you need a good headline. If you want to get Facebook excited and on fire, you need to be provocative in a way. And it's provocative to have a boss banning Christmas. I mean, it's the stuff Hollywood would use to make a big Hollywood movie starring Mel Streep crying for 1 hour until Christmas actually happens. It turns us emotional. Of course it does. The mere thought of, wow, they are spending the time doing absolutely nothing. Nothing happened at the Asylum Center. They have one wish to celebrate Christmas in 48 hours, and we say no. So now we have all these comments. And then someone who was much more clever at using Facebook than I was, she said, hey, why don't we form a Facebook group? Call it, Let's Save Christmas in 48 hours. And I didn't even know you could form a Facebook group, targeting one project. That's what we did. And I must admit, at the beginning, I was a bit disappointed because we need a big room. How's that going to turn up? I mean, so many individuals, they're saying, yes, it's a wonderful idea, let's do this. And the comments inside the group, they were all full of optimism. Yes, yes, yes. But we needed that big room. So by accident, I found out that you, as a member of the group, you could invite all your friends inside that group. And remember, I had 700. So without asking them, I threw them all inside this group. And I had a writer, a colleague, writing me back and saying, why have you thrown me into this group? I live in Copenhagen. What can I do? But she was the only one who was a bit negative about me just throwing everybody in. And now someone figured out, okay, let's just make a very simple new post inside the group. How do we get a big room for us to use in 48 hours? And this is the thing that still makes me wonder about Facebook, how wonderful it actually is. Because I have a crazy friend, he's an artist. His name is Tao. He's a photographer, and he believes photography is the biggest, finest art form there is. He had just bought a deserted church, a church that hasn't been used for years. It was pretty far from our town. It was 30 miles away. But he had emptied the church entirely. It was a bare, naked room, and we could have it Wednesday evening. Do whatever we wished for. Now we have the room. Now it actually turned possible. Well, a few challenges left. How do we get 480 people with no cars out to this place in the middle of nowhere? This is a town because the church is somewhere with 200 people. 1 second. And now back to you, Marco, your point, which is crucial. Because one thing is that we think it's a good idea, us local people. But what about the people in question, especially the people from Eritrea? Would they be even interested? Or would they simply accept the fact that they would have small huts and then just walk from hut to hut to hut to wish each other a pleasant Christmas Eve? So that took that was how I spent the next 24 hours. That was actually addressing each and every single asylum seeker that was inside the camp and asked them, are you even interested? Because we are a group of people who are now making an effort to take us all out of this asylum center and go somewhere else. We have a place, it's far away, we don't know how we're going to get there. Are you even interested? Yes, they were. Where are you doing all this stuff? We're doing it on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? And it's remarkable how many refugees who are actually on Facebook. They use the social media just as much as we do. Yeah, to some it's a surprise. I mean, and it worked for me too. I mean, if you come out of war-ridden Syria. Are you willing to go into a group aiming at making a Christmas Eve for people from Eritrea? Are you not too torn by the war, all the experience? Aren't you traumatized? Well, they may be, but they are also dying for something nice to happen. Instead of just staring into a wall, every day go to the office, ask, is there new things to be told about my case? And there never were, because most people, they spent the first year just waiting to get an answer. So everybody could unite in having that Christmas Eve. That was a relief. Now, of course, they came into the group too. Now we had a really, really lively Facebook group going because we had a lot of locals who were dying to make this Christmas Eve happen. And we had 25 different nationalities exchanging views, maybe talking about their Christmas traditions because it comes up naturally in conversation when you are talking about Christmas. We have recipes shared. This is what we typically eat on Christmas Eve in our country. All these things happened, and we had no idea that it was going to happen. It was completely organic. It just went with the flow.
And you, just a question, was it just Christians that you have in
No, all sorts of religions, because 25 different nationalities, they came with all sorts of religion. Absolutely.
They didn't mind it's called Christmas.
No. That was my question afterwards. Who would? I mean, have you ever met someone who is saying Christmas should be forbidden? I have never come across anyone who has argued that. They may exist, but not in Nygaard at that time, because everyone was equally eager to have this thing happen. Another key element to the use of Facebook. How many in here know the tagging possibility, to tag someone? How many? Hands up? Because it's dynamite if you want to create a big event, because we needed transportation now, and we needed a big caravan of cars, or we needed a bus company who would provide us with free buses. I had no friends who had anything to do with the bus business. No bus drivers, no bus company owners. But the thing about Facebook is that if you use it in a local community, you can be 100% sure that someone, the person we are looking for, may not be inside the group yet, but there will always be a local one who knows the local bus company owner. Typically, they would be friends. If the person who knows the bus company owner says, hey, guess what? On Wednesday, you can provide buses. You can save Christmas to a lot of people from all over the world. Would you perhaps join us in our group? Or would you just allow me to say inside the group, we have buses? And this is what happened. He wasn't exactly a local. He lived, I believe, 15 miles away outside of Nygaard, the town. But he would happily donate free buses. So now we had the place, the big church, empty. We had buses, transportation, out there and back home. What about food? What would you do? Someone talked about food early on. What would you do? Concrete. Now we have this big group. What would you do?
Everybody brings what they can.
Huh?
Everybody brings what they can.
Exactly. And why is that a good idea?
Yeah, because then everybody can do what they want and what they can afford and share it with others.
It's also variety. It's also variety.
Exactly, and that's important because there are a lot of vegetarians. There are a lot of people who don't like this and that. It's the perfect combination. Instead of having a menu, people bring whatever you like. And who took a special pride in bringing some goods, some food. First of all, the Eritreans, of course, because they had a traditional dinner that they would love to share with all of us. Look what we eat on Christmas Eve. It's dynamite food and it's strong as hell. I tell you, it was the amount of water we all had to drink was really, really spicy. But so many people, so many nationalities, they used the rotten little shitty kitchen that the Asylum Center had for them to use. So everybody, when they got on board the buses, they were having a little plate along with them. One thing remains to be said. The bus drivers, they had never had quite a ride like this, because the singing and the dancing of all the Eritreans who are about to go out and celebrate their Christmas, somehow, surprisingly to them, because they hadn't expected that this would actually take place, was mind-blowing. The atmosphere inside the buses were great. And the bus drivers, they were locals. They were used to people being very quiet. If you go into a Danish bus, you'll notice nobody talks to one another. It's dead quiet. But this evening, it was like Africa had actually conquered the Danish bus driving system. It was beautiful. I loved it. But when we got out there, we all walked into the church, and within a minute or two, people were dancing. That was what they were dying to do, and that's exactly what they did. And at the beginning, many Syrians, for instance, myself, we were standing, whoa, what about the food? Aren't we starting out by having dinner? No, dancing right away, woo, woo, crazy shit. It was beautiful. But the bus drivers, they kept being skeptical. So bus drivers, what they normally do when they have to wait, they were supposed to wait for 3 hours now. So they had brought their own newspapers. They started reading, and they could hear the sound. It was like boom, 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 inside this deserted church. So after a short while, they snuck, they left their newspapers behind, they snuck a quick look, and then they entered the church too. Now this local little village, they hadn't had atmosphere, they hadn't had energy, they hadn't had any sound coming from this church for years. All of a sudden, out of the blue, there was a big, noisy atmosphere. So they came too. No one had invited them. They came because they were curious. This whole conference is about integration. But what if the question was, every time we have newcomers arriving in Denmark, in Estonia, Holland, Italy, what if the question was, what are your particularities? What are your favorite dishes? What are your favorite poets? What are your favorite this and that? If those were the questions that we gave to people, instead of asking, what are your school credentials? How good are your computer skills? Those were the kinds of questions that I was supposed to be giving to everyone when I was still working at the office. I would much rather be talking about poetry, food, languages, or Christmas traditions, be it as it may. But the system, the Danish asylum system, doesn't pay any attention to all the good things that we share, no matter where we're from. That's a huge lack. This takes me, of course, back to the Asylum Center, because you can imagine the commotion and the attention that this event received. Most of all because all the newcomers themselves, they had their phones recording everything and shipping it out on Facebook and all the social media there is. So when I got back to work next morning, I immediately was called into my boss's office. She was, what word should I be using? That's the one. That's the one. So, very, very soon she said, I have to give you an ultimatum. Either you go back to your office and you carry on asking questions like, How much schooling have you had? Blah, 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 blah. Or I have to let you go. Now, as I have mentioned, I'm a very spontaneous character, so I heard her say, you creating Christmas Eve, bringing the local community together with all the newcomers, bringing energy and life to a deserted church and a local community even smaller than the one we're in, I hear you say that was bad. I quit. And then I emptied my pockets, gave her the office keys, and left the building. I went around and started going down to the huts and simply just say, I'm a relieved man, because now I don't have to sit in that crappy office every day just waiting to give you a no to make your day as miserable, much more in fact, than mine. Why do I have to stay all day long inside this office saying no, 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 making this place miserable, when we can actually do what we just did last night? Create something that unites us, that brings joy, while you have to wait, because I cannot change that. You will have to wait inside this asylum center for the next year. But why not use it to make something happen together? I was a liberated man. I went back to my home. I have a very small home. The party could never take place in my home because it's just one room. It's one of the smallest houses in the area. I love it. And I was frisking my pockets for my house keys, and they went there. And I suddenly remembered, oh my dear, I gave that to my boss too. I had given her my house keys. So I not only said I quit, I simply handed her the keys to my house. Now that's generous if I ever saw generosity. So I had to go back to my boss and say, it's not that I'm dying to get my job back, don't worry, but I need my house keys. And I got them. Yeah.
You were lucky she could say no.
I think I should probably tell you a bit about how it expanded from our local community to the rest of Denmark, because that is the case. This original group on Facebook has now split into 111 groups in all over Denmark. So we have 111 Danish cities and islands having their own Facebook group. And the reason why it's wonderful that they all split up into smaller fractions is that you rely on the local community. Because whenever you want to do projects together, you should be able to tag the local bus driver, the local bakery, the local whatever. That is the whole, that is the huge advantage of having local groups. When are we done here? At 5?
10 to 5.
Are we done in like 7 minutes? 20?
What's the time?
12 minutes.
In 12 minutes?
17 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll jump to...
10 minutes coffee break after that. We can sit in here. That's okay.
I'll just tell you about, thank you. I'll just tell you about one of the most important figures in our movement as a whole. Because he came to Young Asylum Center around this time. We're talking, his name is Fawaz Tial Sato. He's a Syrian teacher. And we got along instantly. Fawaz was a very direct man, like myself. So one day he came up to me and he said, Mads, I haven't been a school teacher now for 3 years. It's 3 years since the bombs, they took away my school. And my mom and dad, they said, Fawaz, leave this country. We don't want you here anymore. It's not safe. So he left. And for 3 years, he had been entirely away from schools. I called one of the local school leaders, a very small school, 100 students. Thought that would be perfect. And I knew the principal. and told him about this man from Syria. Yes, bring him along. He can have all our students, all 100. That's cool. So a winter's morning, not long after the Christmas Eve actually, we went, and now I could do this. Instead of sitting in my office, I could actually just drive around with Fawaz. Perfect. So we went to this small school, and we get in, and they are doing classes. And you know how silent a school can be when you walk up the hallway and the doors are shut and all the kids are receiving, are having classes. Chance will have it that the bell rings as we're walking up this empty, silent hallway. All doors open and kids are pouring out. All of a sudden, big noise. I look to my right and I see tears running down Fawaz's cheeks. And I ask him, what's going on? And he says, this is the sound of school. This is the music I have missed for 3 years. And of course, I mean, this man, he had not only said goodbye to his mom and dad, but also to the field that he loved, being a teacher. As simple as nothing, I could pick up the phone, call a headmaster and say, I have this teacher from Syria. He's dying to have just one class. He knows he's not allowed to get a job, but could you perhaps just allow him to be a temp for a day? Give him 1 hour. I'm sure it will pay off. And whoa, did it pay off, because when he walked into that classroom, he gave a class that was like it was the last one of his life. And the students, all ages, starting with 7 up till 14, they were just, whoa, who is this wild teacher? Where does he come from? He came from Syria. He came from a war. And he could actually explain to them in a fashion that is not focusing on Assad, who's not focusing on chemical weapons, but who was focusing on a man who loved being a teacher and how hard it had been for him not to be able to do that for 3 years. Everyone can understand that, no matter how old you are. If you bring those people, those voices out to schools, you come a long, long way. And for Fawaz, he really saw the potential in having this Facebook group, because all the local teachers, they were inside that group too. He made so many friends, not just that one day at this particular school, but inside the groups, because the headmaster, he wrote a piece today inside the group, still the Christmas group that I started out talking about, leading to the point where Fawaz, thank God, was given a yes to stay in Denmark. He had hoped to be placed in Copenhagen, Aarhus, the 2 big cities. He ended up in another small town, Hobro in Jutland, almost as isolated as the one we met in, my hometown. But what did he do when he arrived the very first day? What's your guess? What did he do?
Create a Facebook group.
What?
Create a Facebook group.
Bingo! That's what he did. And he hadn't told me. I was sitting at my house, and you know, the venligboende word is rare in Denmark, so you notice when it pops up. It was pretty locally centered, but what's Hobro? That's far away. Who's behind this? Oh, that's where Fawaz. It's Fawaz who did it! And that's when I realized, wow, this has potential, because he was one of the newcomers. And if the newcomers, they can see this is worth doing, then you have invented something that beats integration big time, because now it's not integration. Now it's equality. Now it's him saying, I'm new in your town, I want to meet you. Perfect. Thank you. That's it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In what language are you communicating in these Facebook groups?
All sorts. Yeah. And that's one of the beauties, because how did poetry suddenly turn up inside the groups? It turned out first in Arabic. Mahmoud Darwish, I had never heard of him before we started this group. And that was what I was saying. Suddenly it became natural that we talked about recipes, that we talked about music. I've never heard about Ferouz before before I started at the Asylum Center. And the beauty of using all the languages. This morning we heard a poem in Estonian. I love that. Even though I didn't understand, because it actually took me back to all the poetry that was inside this first group. I didn't understand, but I saw the point of putting it in there to show that, hey, poetry is worldwide, and make the Danes eager in understanding what does it say. Why is that important to you, that exact poem? Why is it important? Make people curious. It can be done easily.